Yes. And then either S1MPLE will save Faze and they're going to go deep in the major, or he's going to implode the team and everyone leaves, and then all of a sudden you have a Liege and Frozen and Rain and S1MPLE can all go, and Kerrigan can all go to good teams that are actually capable of winning something. Because at the moment, Faze is a complete disaster of the highest proportions. But before we go into why that is, a word from our sponsor. Skin Club is a top adult, that means 18 plus, case opening site with a huge variety of cases that can be unboxed to collect and upgrade skins. Skin Club's provably fair system guarantees a fair chance to all players that you can easily track, whether you're unboxing alone in your room or against users or bots on LAN, or anywhere in between. Skin Club lets you open individual cases solo, or you can try to unbox your favorite skin or a skin from your favorite creator. Hey, Vitality is on here, and so is Kerrigan. If you've had enough of that, come back another time and activate your daily case, which Skin Club has for free with up to 13 different levels based on your experience. If you'd rather try something different, you can find your perfect match in battle on Battle Tinder, or you can weigh the risks to upgrade your undesired garbage skins for something actually useful. Just put in the skin, look for an upgrade, and let it spin. Skin Club offers themed events monthly, bringing new cases, giveaways, and prizes you can get by playing on the platform. You can deposit with crypto, card, or the skins sitting in limbo that you never touch. Make sure to check out the link in the description for a 7% deposit bonus. Watching Faze is one of the most frustrating experiences because they have this unbelievable ability to just pull defeat from the jaws of victory, especially after coming back to begin with. They're going to start this game down 7-1, 8-1, and then all of a sudden they bring it to 11-8, and guess what? They lose in regulation to a 1v4, and that's not even like their worst collapse recently. If I even go to a game I was on the desk for, Faze versus Falcons, they're up 10-8 on Ancient. They're in a great spot. Opponents are on Eco, or they go for like a Tech 9 force. Faze lose against the Tech 9s, and then they lose a 5v2 with just some actually matchmaking level mistakes that just everyone on the team, I guarantee you, it's not like they don't know. They could watch that. They probably still remember it like a week later. They probably still could name it off the top of their heads. Problem isn't necessarily the round they're losing. In fact, they just had a new Faze vlog just dropped where they talk about this too. It's not about the round they're losing. It's about the fact they can't get over the rounds they lose in these bad fashions. And that's why I think this S1MPLE move is either gold or shit, because they can't get over the rounds they're losing. In theory, S1MPLE's not going to help that. But I have had this hunch, and this might be crazy, but I've kind of felt like Faze could be one of those teams that's like 1 or 2 wins against good teams away from just completely getting over the hurdle, especially when, look, Brokey recently has been a bit of a problem. He's not as bad as I think you might immediately think based on the way people are talking about him. However, he misses easy shots in the most critical situations. Like, I'll watch him go a whole game where he's doing quite well, and I'm like, what are we talking about? Brokey needs to be cut? Oh, I don't know if this looks like that. And then the most pivotal moment, he'll have back-to-back rounds where he makes a terrible misplay and just like dies to a molly or something, or he just misses a stupidly easy shot and loses his team the round. It's actually unbelievable. The timings, how they line up so specifically, it just seems like he'll go a large portions of the game being good, and it's not even late in the game. It's like against Falcons, I think it was Falcons on Dust 2, or one of their games, they're playing Dust 2, and it's like, here's the most pivotal round, round 8. Like, they lose this, and they're going to have a really tough time coming back, misses 2 shots. It's actually crazy. So you're going to have an upgrade in performance, and that might push them over where they can have these kind of performances that I feel like they needed to eventually have. This type of one-off, you know, just like beat Falcons one of these times from a huge deficit, come back from 12-3 like Vitality to bring it to OT and actually win. And if they could do that, maybe that actually gets them into the right mind space, and all of a sudden they get over all of this stuff. But alternatively, they do really bad misplays and brain farts and just fumbles and lose some games, and then everyone's raging at each other and it's 100 times worse, and the team absolutely falls apart. Could go either way. I'm actually leaning towards thinking it's going to go well, but this game is really interesting because we're going to fast forward a little bit. They start out getting destroyed. I mean, you can look at it. They have 6 kills between them, 1 kill per round on average at this point. One of the problems that I think S1MPLE will fix, by the way, in this team is that I've never been in love with the way Brokey plays with the op, because like statistically, if you look at opening kills, he is in theory a very passive opper. He's actually a hyper passive opper, gets very few opening kills. It's just he goes for these aggressive plays in the mid round. And I'm fine with that, to be honest. I'm completely fine with someone going for those aggressive plays in the mid round. But I always wonder, like, why don't you also get the openings in the early round? Like, isn't that's one of the easiest parts. In fact, that's one of the ways that I think, like, you can measure a strong opper. How consistently does he get openings in the early round? And when he doesn't get openings, how consistently does he at least get away with his life? I think that's one of the easiest ways to measure what makes a good opper. And Brokey didn't do a lot of that, which I always had a problem with. And S1MPLE is going to be quite good at that, and likely quite good at exactly how Brokey ops as well. Like, simple combat opping, that's something he's definitely pretty well known for. Now this game, 5v3, and Maus just have such a good read on Faze. I mean, this is the second round we're looking at in a row, although they weren't in a row because I skipped forward, but in a row where they just get smoked off just as they're about to go for the B play. I mean, they're 3v5 in this situation already, but they get smoked off right at the wrong time. Last time they got spammed through the smoke as well. Spinks is coming through lower, hit some pretty nice shots there, and that's 7-0. Bang. And this is classic Faze. If you think of the Faze good times, you're thinking of Faze winning this type of round, right? You're thinking of Faze coming back from 7-0 down, something they've done a million times before. They've got the AK in the hands of Elige. Elige, statistically, it was kind of funny. If you look at gun versus gun rounds, Brokey actually outpaced Elige this year, but you can't sort with those without a ton of trouble doing so. You can't really sort with those stats by team, and I think Brokey kind of performed better against lower opposition. And again, it's the moments that he was struggling in that were really important, like really big moments that you just can't, you need your opper to be that backbone, that consistent factor that allows you to kind of build something around. And if he's struggling to do that, then you're just going to struggle to find consistency as a team. But this does look like a round they're probably winning. Obviously, initial entry, and not only that, but Kerrigan did a really good job on short, getting that push back. They pushed, I believe it was Torji trying to jump up, back into CT spawn. Rain pre-aiming for the crouch peek. You would say, some might say, I wouldn't say, I'm not one to say that type of thing, but some might call that Zontix-esque in his pre-aims. And sometimes that's actually a pretty effective way to play the game. But this will be Faze picking up their first round. Rain finishes it off. And interestingly, at least at Blast, Rain seemed to pop off in a lot of these really important games and these important moments, which is, I guess, kind of what you think of Rain for. Like, you know, you go into a group stage, not necessarily expecting Rain to have his best performance of all time, but you bring him into the major, you bring him into the 2-2 game, lose this, and you're out of the event. That's where Rain's going to pop off. Round 8, and this is actually a really nice play. Several teams I've seen run this recently where you put some pressure off Cat, force this player over in this direction, and then you have a player come through CT spawn, sometimes with a flash as well, in through CT spawn, catch that player completely unaware, completely unready for that play. So they get the entry, they turn it into a 3v2, and Spinks is kind of alone here. Brokey, I'm not sure actually Brokey gets a shot off there, but still. Spinks actually had a chance to get at least a kill, or could have started to turn the round. I mean, he plenty of damage done. Frozen and Brokey are low, but Jimmy's really got no chance on the rotation. But Faze do now have some economy going for them. And most importantly, when it comes to this type of thing, like building a T side, it really is something that you kind of, the rounds build on top of each other. If you have nothing working for you, it just feels like you're kind of sometimes, if you don't see a clear opening, like a clear mistake that people are making, oftentimes it just feels like you're kind of rolling the dice and hoping you gamble into the right play. Like you just make the right gamble read, or you can stop like dying early when you're going for a default map control. Once you start to get some rounds, you can actually build on top of those and say like, okay, this part of our map control is going really well, so we can build on that into a certain strat, or like this site hit's going well, they're doing this that's working. You know, you have to find something that's working. And so like these types of comebacks where you're down, oh, nice shot by Torji, where you're down 6-7-0, especially on the T side, I can see these comebacks being, you know, not like luck. It's not necessarily like they're getting completely lucky, but that's another unfortunate one for Brokey, because not only does he miss this shot, which is exactly the only thing he's really set up for here. That's the thing that he really needs to be getting, because he needs to not get spotted with the bomb. So he misses the shot. I understand, like, looking at it, it's not the easiest shot of all time, but at the same time, it's kind of a prioritization thing. I think he just needs to make sure that he definitely hits that shot if the guy jumps up, because it's the main one where the guy's going to spot him and get away. okay. But he gets spotted, misses the shot. Still though, Rain on the other side gets a kill. Frozen picks up 2 on long. So they kind of just like carry Brokey through that round, essentially. Again, not that it was like the easiest shot of all time, but it feels like a shot where he should just be prioritizing hitting that shot more than anything else. But either way, they win the round. Then Brokey gets the entry on the long peak, Brawlin goes down. And in this case, teams are getting, I wouldn't say predictable. I mean, this is just how CS has been working for a long time. You know this upper tons push is coming. It feels kind of like an ebb and flow in terms of the meta though, because it seems like over time, teams, it becomes so obvious that you're pushing upper, teams try and do certain things slightly differently. But the problem is if you don't have mid control, it's pretty dangerous to double push mid. I mean, you saw what I believe it was Rain did with that mid doors push on round 8, right? Like it becomes pretty dangerous to push through mid doors, even if you double push. So you end up at this spot where it's like, it's obvious we're going to push tons, but we kind of have to. And the reason you kind of have to is because your opponents can always go back through T-spawn over to A. That one player in lower I see so often recently just getting the double or just finding the right timings because he knows the push is coming, but it's not as easy as it said then done is what I'll say. Finally, Faze broke the economy of MOUZ, and then in natural Faze fashion, they break the economy. They take 4 rounds to do it. They finally put MOUZ back onto MP9s, FAMASs, not great guns, and they get 1 kill and lose everyone else and lose the round. But it's all good because they win the pistol off of, I think, like a Rain 3K or something. He hits a really nice shot through a smoke. They win the anti-eco and the anti-force and all that, and they're now 8-7 down. I mean, it's now a very close game. From 7-0 down, 7-0, they've actually turned it into a very much winnable game. Elige almost gets caught there. That's a little uncomfortable. That's one of those spots where it's just, I've said this before. I've said it before I said it before. I've said this before many times. It's okay to die on an anti-eco or an anti-force. It's totally fine as long as your gun isn't retrievable. And that's why short is a really high-risk place to play on anti-ecos or anti-forces, because if they kill you, they are getting your gun 100%. Like, there's basically no way to stop them from getting your gun. And if they can get your gun, they can absolutely parlay that into a round win. So I understand why he was trying to fall back there, but it got a little bit awkward, you might say. Still, you go into the first buy round, actually this might be the second buy round. It might have been a full buy on round 3, just not like a perfect buy as you generally will see on round 3, especially if you don't get a bomb plant in the previous 2 rounds. But it's still a pretty decent buy for the T's at least. And MOUZ go for standard short control, molly towards the box. It's more or less what you're expecting. I think teams get a little bit lazy sometimes against Faze because Brokey doesn't go for this quite as much as other operas do. Faze is comfortable going for the re-aggressions towards short, which some teams are a little more antsy, a little less likely to go for than Faze, and Brokey is good at finding those timings, right? That exact timing where the exec is being thrown. I mean, you can never stop an op if the op hits the shot, but at the same time, you know, if you find the right timing or the wrong timing, your opponents are at least, it's possible for them, especially on land, to actually find a timing where they can take you down, hit you with a quick headshot or at least a trade, right? But he finds the right timing, gets the kill, and then he should find the last kill, and he does to close out the round. It does feel like sometimes Faze, 10-8, Faze, I mean, this is like an all-time collapse for MOUZ. This is MOUZ. This is the semifinals of a pretty relatively prestigious event. I mean, it's not an arena event, but as far as studio events go, I'd say this is one of the relatively prestigious ones. That literally means nothing. As far as studio lands go, I mean, this is a quarters, I think. This might be the quarterfinals. This is one where all of the top teams are there, which is the important part. All of the top teams are there. MOUZ want to kind of prove themselves, and this is potentially a historic collapse if it was map 3, but it's map 1, so it's not quite as historic, but still, 7-0 up. If you lose 13-8, that's rough. That's a rough one to lose. They go into the following gun round. They're looking for more or less the same kind of ideas that they were going for in the very first gun round. This time they get slowed down a little bit by Kerrigan with the short smoke, but they still throw the mollies to make sure that they're completely safe. They don't want to give anything to the rifle power of Faze, and Faze is a team that's definitely very strong. If you walk into the rifles and they just have Elige and Frozen or Elige and Rain, like, you know, these combinations of 2 riflers are so so dangerous from Faze. So they try and play it relatively safe. I mean, there was nobody there to begin with, but that doesn't hurt them too badly. And then Faze, they don't have a smoke to actually prevent this, but they do have at least one molly. They've still got a flash on Elige. They've got the kill on a Brawlin, and Xerxin is just waiting for this. So you have to, as Mouse, you have to be forcing out through tunnels. You have no other option, and that needs to be the major part that works out. And actually, it begins to work. They get 4 kills, but Elige is in the right place and can save. And after time, actually, I thought he got that kill. That's why I swapped POVs, but Xerxin grabs the kill. So Faze do lose 5 players. One of the things that I will say is that you can win rounds where you don't have anything to build on because someone just fragged out, someone just got a 4K. And that was always one of the scariest things before they, I'm ancient because this is like 6 years ago that they changed this, but before they changed hard resets and it was like you win a round and then you lose and you're on 1400 loss bonus again. That was one of the scariest things in CS. It was like, yeah, we won a round. How? Our guy just 1v4'd. Like, and it's like, okay, so we did nothing that worked. There's nothing to build on. There's not like, okay, like our default's working, the strat's working. It's like, so we're just like a hard reset about to happen and there's almost nothing we can do because we're not going to 1v4 a second time in a row. And the reason I'm saying that though is because there are rounds that you can win without actually getting anything to build on, but there are also rounds that you can lose where you did get something to build on. The strat worked, the idea worked, you can build on that for your half, but you lost the round. And that feels like one of those rounds from Mouse, and it's very appropriate that immediately following that, they start their comeback, right, from 11-8. So this time they go for a heavy mid play. Nobody in tunnels, they just go straight up mid to B. It was Rain and Frozen to hold on, and Frozen just has to get at least one there. I mean, he's in the right spot. He gets the time. He just misses. If we're being straight up, he just doesn't hit the shot as quickly as he should. I mean, Jimmy makes himself hard to hit. You can give all the credit you want in the world to Jimmy and to the idea for Mouse, but at the same time, if Frozen gets one there, your 3v2 is definitely winnable. 3v3, B-site retake, little less winnable. But it's one of those ones where, I don't know. It almost feels like you have to go for it, but at the same time, as soon as Elige gets hit here, I'm thinking save. As soon as Elige fails to get in off that flash, look at the money on Faze, right? Like, this is one where I feel like different philosophies might go for this one, like play this one out a little bit differently. Because in my mind, it's like on paper, you want to go for this one because it is winnable, but it's a 3v3 B site retake on Dust 2, one of the hardest sites to retake. And the reason I'm saying that you might not want to go for it is because of the economy. If they had a little more money and like basically if Brokey died, they would not have a full buy here. So at the very least, they did have Brokey survive, and maybe that's the idea. You have Brokey throw a couple of flashes and then save if you know, Elige and Kerrigan don't get a couple of entries. That's actually probably the smartest way to go about it. You kind of say like, okay, we're gonna make sure at least one of us survives. But Brokey went a little more aggressive than that, so that doesn't seem like it was the plan. Long control for Mouse, they actually make their way out. Elige is up on short and they can get mid control really easily. This is one of the reasons that this kind of isolated short player with the new boost boxes, the new quote new boost box is highly effective, because with this player here, then you actually do maintain some control of middle. You get a lot of information as to what your opponents are doing. In fact, you can from here you can even hear your opponents at long doors and get an idea what they're doing. Sometimes you can also, I've seen Zywoo flash over for his teammates to support the long hold, which is quite nice. And it means that you can have your players like that you don't feel forced to push through long tunnel or push through tunnels. You don't necessarily need to force for tunnels control because of that. But Torji in pit, Brokey is just playing with fire a little bit there, ends up going down, 5v4, and then Elige gets caught on a timing. I think that's just what happens. Elige is kind of trying to look in multiple directions. Frozen's helping him a little bit, but Elige is just... This is one of the reasons Peeker's advantage is a thing, because once you've been holding an angle for long enough, you start to get a little... your reactions start to go a little slower. You know, you're not quite ready for someone the entire time. But this round just completely collapses. I mean, Kerrigan's here. Kerrigan's like... He's a dead man. He's got no chance. Maybe he could get one. He's screwed there. He's got nothing going for him. They're going to lose this round. No chance. And then they win the anti-eco, or like kind of a quarter buy. I don't even know what you can call it. It was just like a rifle and mostly pistols. They win that. Mao's do rather. Turn it to 11-11. And then Mao's have a lot of options now, right? Long control's been going well for them. The walkout mid has been going quite well for them as well, and obviously the short control has been going well for them. Basically, the whole map's been going well for them, right? Like everything that they've been trying to go for has been working out, and so Faze, as a CT, this is part of why I don't like T-sided maps. Dust 2, I think in the current meta is relatively CT-sided, but I'm just saying in general. One of the reasons that CT-sided maps or T-sided maps kind of suck is because when you have a T-side, you can kind of build your half like this, and you can start to understand where the weaknesses are and those types of things. But on the CT side, it feels more like if you're losing, just play better. It's a little harder to find the openings, find the weaknesses on CT side, because your opponents could be just going 5 players in the other direction, right? They found some weaknesses, they found some things that are working, which means they can set themselves up well, and they did 2 of the 3. You know, they go for the long control, they force that gap in middle, especially with that kill. That means that walkout through middle is likely to work. And with that walkout through middle, they find a kill on a Brokey, who's just not as ready for that as he should be. I mean, he was kind of somewhat like he was just about to get ready for it, but maybe he was as ready for it as he should have been, but it feels like he could have been more ready. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I know it makes no sense, but that's all I'm saying. And then you have a 12-11. Okay, CT timeout Faze. Let's go, guys. We got this. It's like no problem. In fact, I remember like a timeout where people were really lauding Kerrigan for how good of a timeout it was, or maybe it was like a pregame talk, not a pregame, like a freeze time talk, where he was talking to Rops, like, you know, obviously this is quite a while ago. He was talking to Rops, and he was like getting his head back in it, and he said something. He was like, got him to do a play specifically. He was like, no, don't do that play, do this, because, and the idea was that he wanted to get his head into the game. Kerrigan that's one of the things that people love about Kerrigan. So they go back into this one immediately, and he helps out to getting himself a kill where, you know, he's been having a reasonable game, 5v3. Not only that, but they've got lots of play. They've got the whole team dedicated to this a-hole, just, you know, Brokey's making sure they're not getting flanked through Cat, which is what you want to be doing. And Rain gets 2. So now you've got a 4v1, and you know where the guy is. Now, it's not a clean 4v1. I'd say this is more of a 1v3, because the first kill onto Rain is more of a trade. The numbers lie a little bit, because technically there was 4 players alive, but not for very long. And then Brokey, I think Brokey's just kind of a little scared here, which is fair. I mean, he's got only a scout. Oh, he just doesn't find quite the right. Oh, the timing is, this is like Faze magic. The nip magic, this is Faze magic. The absolute worst possible timing in both directions, just completely unlucky. Understandably, he's trying to make sure that he doesn't dry hold the angle, because that's the easiest way you can die. So you end up in this 3v1, and they're kind of looking weird directions. I mean, Zershin did tap the bomb. Going through CT is always a little suspect. It's a little shady, but at the same time, you don't have a lot of options. You could go back around short, but then you can get head. I mean, the guy can sit behind sight boxes and just headshot you, and you can always lose that. But they get a little bit timing. Frozen's looking here, doesn't realize he just sees him at that moment, gets shot in the back, just kind of unlucky timing. And then at this point, if you're a Liege, you're trying not to give the round away, but at the same time, if you try and play too passive, especially if you don't know where he went or what he did, you try and play too passive, you give him more options. Now, there's not that much time on the clock. It's not like this crazy bad play from a Liege, but that's the way it kind of ends up. And then Brokey does end up hitting the shot. I feel like he has to play a little more passive there, but at the same time, when you're in a 2v1 where both of you are injured, you don't have the greatest possible options, because if you do allow a bomb plant on B, because you're both injured, it's still very, very much losable, right? Like you can't trade when you've got 20 health and your teammate has 10. They needed to find a way, I guess, to keep the player with 100 health alive. Like that's kind of where this became a very uncomfortable situation. Maybe the solution is to actually just double up and try and go together, but at the same time, Elige was too far away, right? He was on ramp. So maybe the timing of that retake where they tried to actually push up ramp with only 2 players, maybe that was the problem. Or maybe the problem was just that Brokey got really unlucky, and he needed to just be a little more aggressive at finding out when the bomb was picked up so they could triple peek, because I think Zershin had to cross to grab the bomb. Maybe that's the big problem. But at the same time, it's a 1v3 Faze down 7-0. They bring it back 11-8, and then they lose out. S1MPLE needs to save this roster. Simple.